My goodness, what a fantastic group we have here.
Are you performing with Moloch today?
Yes, I am.
Thought it was.
Well, I found that over there, and it just seemed appropriate that it would be up here. How does the song go? The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes, of ships, of sealing wax, of cabbages and kings. And why? The sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. It's important to me that you're all here, because apparently you are the minds and the hearts and the souls of those who hear not, who see not, who speak not. It's like the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. I feel like I'm in the land of the zombies. People are walking out there in the street and they're walking, they're talking, but they're dead from the neck up. This is zombie land. Well, come on in. We have just one seat and it was waiting for you. Right here.
Oh, he's always late.
That's what I've been told, but the rumors may precede him. I'm convinced that if we do not do that which has never been done before, not only will we see the end of England, we'll see the end of freedom for all people, for all time. On that Georgia guidestone, like your tomb setting out there, I think they call it Stonehenge. There's something that relates to, between Stonehenge and the Georgia Guidestones. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm looking up at the Guidestones and they say their plan is to bring this planet down to sustainable living, to an Agenda 21 for all, for a massive reduction of the population to where they are controllable. They are simply serfs of the ruling elite. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Iluminati, the Illuminati, the global government that is waiting in the wings so closely to take this government over and down. If we do not incite this revelation, God bless us, because we will be looking up as the Illuminati is looking down. This symbol over here, the owl of Moloch, they have sacrifices at the foot of the owl. Bohemian Grove is 40 feet high. Human sacrifices they have for years. Right now it's symbolic, so I'm told. But I've talked to people who've been there and say that it's not always symbolic. They do. You hear the screams and the horror of the children. There isn't anything you've got. There isn't anything you ever had, ever hoped to have. They're not planning on taking away. They want it all. We've got a film. In fact, Matthew brought some with him. It's called Frankenfed. Like Frankenstein, Frankenfed. The Federal Reserve is, as you say, Harry, privately owned. They create that fiat funny money, they lend it back to us, and we were at the restaurant over there, and I went into the loo and I'm trying to wipe off my hands, and I see some toilet tissues there. I took a look at 4 of them, and I said, well, this is exactly the same value of these 4 tissues as a $250 million note from Zimbabwe. Had a girlfriend over there, and she says, well, things are really bad. We had it's cold last night, and there was no firewood. I said, what are you burning? She says, the currency. Millions and millions and millions of dollars of trees printed with something, and once they print something on it, they lend it back to us, as you know. at face value. I'm convinced that we have to have a free world alliance. The Free World Alliance would be a creation, or is now, a creation of the tribal, linguistic, racial, political, and ethnic nation states. We don't have to ask for the acceptance of the approval in any way of anybody. We can simply do what was done after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bomb, and that is call for the freedom rather than the enslavement of the world. At the meeting, as you know, there was a black fellow who came in, and he was talking to me about he's a prince from Nigeria. He's talking to me about this problem that they have. They got 40 million people in their nation. Nobody's bothered to recognize them. So I stood up. I recognize you. You're recognized. We got the Free World Alliance. We're going to damn recognize your country. 40 million people. Everywhere across the world. Everywhere. There's little groups of people. Some in the Brazilian jungle who we may not have discovered them quite yet, but they will someday be discovered. And if there's 136 of them and they have their own language, we recognize that country, that linguistic or tribal nation state. And in so doing, we have something that is not simply in opposition to the United Nations. We have an alternative to the United Nations. We have a group, an alliance, which is free rather than slave. You can't have competition when freedom versus slavery. There is no competition. When offering this, they can't win, and we can't lose. I walk into this country expecting to see, well, I will have maybe a few weeks, maybe a month before they get over to trying to sign this Lisbon Agreement. And I see in the paper it's just done, it's a done deal. They've done it. And I'm walking out along the street and I'm thinking, my God, I'm going to see somebody in the bars. Somebody eating some fish and chips or in one of these sweet shops or some gas station, someone, somewhere. Pardon the French, but there's not a goddamn soul that I talk to on the street who had the foggiest idea what has happened to the country. It's like a woman, you know, she went into this party and they were feeding her some drinks and she went out and she drank it, and 2 days later she wakes up in some hotel. She says, God damn, you know, whew, what happened to me? A month later she misses her period. She says, could I have been screwed? You've all been screwed. And politically impregnated with the seed of the devil. There's a guy, Harry, who made a movie about Rosemary's Baby. Polanski. And this girl was courted by her own husband because he was going to get certain favors in the theater business, so he could become a famous actor. But he did have to sacrifice his wife for just one simple seduction, just one night with the devil. A friend of mine's done a new movie called Polanski Unedited. I'm in it. It's a lousy movie. But we're going to sell it. And along with it, we're going to get Frankenfed, the monster amongst us. And we got another movie which we're about to do called They Own It All. And guess what? Harry, you're going to be in the movie. You got a starring role. See, you know, you get to be a certain age. Not to say that you're getting up there. But your reputation has preceded you. And when I discuss things with you, It's like we're in the same club. We're in the same country. We're in the same zone. It's just like instantaneous. I got a friend. Well, there is an alliance of friends. Robert, your reputation precedes you. You're in the film. I would like each and every one of you here to be in the film. I mean that. And I don't just want all the older men. I'd like to have a little pulchritude in the picture. No, it really helps. And these guys know, it's how often you want to just sit around and watch, this guy for, 2 hours, or me, right? No insult, it's just, but you're going to watch you or her. There's no choice. You can talk and I'll look at her.
You didn't think you were going to come back.
This group up here, and by the way, we went up to the Bohemian Grove. We actually went onto their property. The guards come out and says, "You got 2 minutes, the police will be here." I figured, well, why challenge them there? We've already got it on film. See, the Manhattan Project was put together. The Manhattan Project brought about the atomic bomb. The Illuminati decided that they had to delay the war to get the Soviets to come across the Asian landmass to Vladivostok, invade North Korea. The Russians didn't fight any war with Japan until the last 9 days. And they had this invasion which gave them North Korea. They wanted North Japan. MacArthur said no. They delayed the war so that General Patton couldn't get in there and we'd have a united Germany. So the Soviets could be allowed to take over Poland and Czechoslovakia and Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. All by design. Harry knows. Harry knows. And if you don't have the Harrys on the film, what the hell do you have? You've got an authority. You've got a guy that's been there. You've got a guy that's done that. It's not the medals on his chest. It's the freedom of his mind. You're a doctor, 84 years young. You've been through it. You see it. How can you cure this beast that is dying? This morning we took a picture of Margaret. She's this lady who is, it's haunted. My God. Or maybe this is a signal from the Nazis. What is it, the code? The Enigma code.
That's it.
What? The Illuminati, right? Well, it's okay, May the ghosts be with you. In 1967, when I made the Illuminati CFR records, there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, correct me because I may not be right, but we figured about 17 to 18,000 people who knew something about the Illuminati, not just in the United States, but in the world. Very narrow group of people. We were hanging on by a thread. We're holding on almost with our fingernails. This story was going to drop and was going to vanish with the death of Myron Fagan. And I thought, well, I had just discovered that there was an enemy that was controlling the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and they went back and forth, arguing back and forth and looking this way and that way and this way and that way. But the enemy wasn't either side, it was up there, hanging, and they had the strings on both parties. 1964, I hadn't discovered that when I was working for Goldwater and on the George Murphy staff. He was a senator. And I'm thinking, If this information disappears, if it vanishes, if it disappears with Myron Fagan, who's going to pick it up? I didn't have the big picture. I heard of the big picture, but I didn't get it all. But Myron did. Harry's got it all. He's got gold. And we've got to recognize that gold. We've got to recognize the intelligence that exists within this room. Obviously, you can talk to each other. There may be a guy in the bar, some fellow down at the bottom says, you know, he's obviously against the European Union. And I can go down there and I can get him on film. And he'll say a few words, but they're thinking, well, he's just another guy in a British pub. What the hell does he know? But you guys do know. Once you go on film, and we take this film, and we offer a free download, and I'm going to offer a free download on our film, Frankenfed, on the Coast to Coast show. We'll reach 11 million people, one day. I dare to say that that's more people than you may ever talk to in the entirety of your combined lives. 11 million people. So we offer a free download for Frankenfed, which explains that the city within the city and the Federal Reserve are creating this funny money crap. And they're lending it to us, and we're buying into it. But you can't talk to that many people without having somebody listen, because they're interested in listening to the show in the first place. So I'm going to offer a free download. That's like, you've just finished a film, you got to get $45,000 back, and you fall on the sword. You give it away. Why? Because Alex, and I've talked to Alex about making it available through his show, and they'll just crank out these things. People can go into the internet and bang, 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 and it's all done. 25 million people. 25 can reach 50. That's enough people to change the course of the world. We can easily change the course of the world. It's not difficult. A movie can be seen by 1 million before a book can be read by one. Everybody's out there hustling the books, right? You go over to a meeting, oh, here's this book, and here's this little thing, and here's that. Let's be professional about this. If we do not take advantage of the opportunity that we have, the advantage that we have to redirect this country and fast, then we're going to lose this war. How much time do we have? Somebody says, well, how much time do we have, Anthony? We don't have any time. The time is gone, right? It's gone. We don't have the time. So we've got to do something that has never been done before. How can we reach 60 million people in this country? How can we do that? Can we talk to 60 million? No, not. But a film can talk to 60 million. I'm going to do the Edge television show. They said, well, they were going to give an hour. I said, well, no, I want 2 hours. Matthew. I talked to him. I said, can we make clips for these guys? Little teeny film clips. He said, well, I've already sent them the tapes. It's transferred over to them. They can make a selection. No, you make the selection. You have to think for them because they're not thinking that fast. They say, well, this guy, we don't know who this Anthony J Hilder is. A face in the crowd. But when we do the film, which comes from the show, and we incorporate all of this together, we can offer these films. The British Constitution Party, or movement. I'm talking to Brian Garish, and I'm in a private meeting for 5-6 hours. I'm thinking, what? Here's the British Constitution Party. And at that meeting, I stood up and asked about the British, how many people had read the British Constitution? few people stood up. And I'm saying, wait, what am I hearing? That's why I stood up in the chairs. I wanted to be obvious. Now I was asked again, where's the Constitution? A few people stood up and said, there's the Constitution. There's no Constitution. A British Constitution must be drafted. And I said, who's going to write it? So I went back to the house and started writing the British Constitution. The British Constitution has to be written with expertise by Sir Harry and Company, by Robert, by you. You say, well, who are we to write a constitution? Who are we to say that we can have our rights and we can have our country back and we can rule those who now rule us? These people should be in prison. I'm taking a look at what hasn't been done in the lack of thinking. To me, it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm just shocked that nobody sat back. Maybe it's coming from across the pond. I'm seeing a British Constitution group, and they don't have a constitution. If you don't have a constitution, what are you doing? Not since the Magna Carta has there been any formal document preserving the rights of the British people. Where is it? It doesn't exist. And I'm thinking, my God, it doesn't exist. We have to write it. When we write it, it must be so that we don't ask for their acceptance or their approval. We simply write it. Let them challenge. But there are 60, 70 million people out here, and I don't know how many of them are over there in the excuse me, the Parliament. I've got to take some of this because I just choked thinking about it. And I think of all the people out there. They should be choking, not I. Why am I choking? They just had world government rammed down their throats, and they're not saying a word. Because you haven't formalized a constitution. Let us do that. Let us form the Free World Alliance in opposition to the United Nations. Let us offer that which this global government is taking away. I mean, it seems reasonable to me if a fellow is out there riding the waves and one comes up, they can fight the waves. And they can fight each wave, the wave that comes in. And they can be pulled down and in the undertow brought to the bottom and drowned. Or they can enjoy the whole experience and ride the wave to the shore. Some people have discovered that. They don't have to go down. They don't have to drown. They don't have to die. You got a medical system here that doesn't address alternatives. The AV3 is addressing alternatives. I don't know how many people are going to be over there, but I'm going to be there and offer alternatives. We go down to Mexico filming the clinics. Go over to China, Manchuria, Japan, Taiwan. They've got some sort of semblance of freedom of medicine. In Alaska, we didn't have freedom of medicine, and I was promoting it on my show. And the AMA actually hired a lobbyist to come over and knock down the legislation that we were presenting calling for freedom of choice in medicine. Well, guess what happened? I worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. We came to vote. We went down to defeat. I don't know, it was 22 to 18 or whatever it was. And I got mad. I said, you must get this idea. We have a choice to change this system. We have a choice to have freedom to choose that which we want to have in our own bodies. I hammered them for 5 days, mercilessly. I don't know how to say that exactly right. They reconvened in Juneau, Alaska, had more legislative response than in the history of the state legislature. In the history of the state. They reconvened, had another vote. We won. First state in the United States to have freedom of choice in medicine. Now there's 17 states to have freedom of choice in medicine. The Iluminati records, which I did with Myron Fagan, 17, 18,000 people in the world. You know that, Harry. Nobody knew. You have a few guys like you. You knew the story. How many else people knew back there in 67? Really? Handful? About that. By 1970, we had 34.5 million had heard the tapes, the records. By 2009, there's in excess of 1 billion people on the planet. I go into meetings and people talk to me about the Illuminati, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the banking institutions. They talk about it. Guys off the street. Guys have, a drink in their hand and say, God damn Illuminati, I gotta go out and kill those sons of bitches. And I got my gun and I'm gonna shoot the first son of a bitch comes in there wearing one of those badges. In the film Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and Walter Houston and Humphrey Bogart are surrounded by these Mexicans, and they say that they're part of the military. He says, well, where's your badges? The guy with the gold tooth, he looks up and says, we don't need no badges. Badges? We don't need no badges. You don't need any badges. You simply assume the position of authority. I walked in over here at the church today with all of the guys from the military. They just let me by. I'm carrying a camera, just moving people away, standing up next to the preacher, and he's doing his thing, and he comes over and says, after, he says, you're not to be here. You can't be in here. I said, really? He brings me back. He speaks to the warden or whatever it is, and I knew my freedom of motion was going to be limited. Our freedom of thought is not limited. There's nothing restraining us. We can make films. And hopefully we'll make some money, we'll sell these things. Matthew had some made. I figure we wouldn't get through, at least I wouldn't get through customs, because I have certain restrictions of travel in certain nations for having done certain things for a certain amount of years. So we made some copies. At the meeting that you have coming up there, we're going to flog some things, because when I get back to the United States, I want to pay the storage bill and the rent. So I just got up and left. And I came into town. I said, great, glad I'm here. I'm shaking hands. I don't have a single pound, not 1 pence. I didn't think that was going to, people are very generous. The good doctor says, what do you want to eat? I said, yeah, we'll have some salmon or whatever. I couldn't eat it all. But it's really not food that I'm interested in. I'm interested in being fed the knowledge that each and every one of you has. Each of you have stories. Each of you in this room are knowledgeable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know what's going on. When you're on a film, that you sort of represent like 1 in 10,000 that actually gets on film and actually gets out there. You're all intelligent. You communicate. And at the meeting there in London, I said, you've got to, all of the people out there who aren't always thinking, have to look up and develop, as Harry has done, to see beyond the horizon. If he was just like the average guy, he'd look up there and he'd see the house and he'd see the hill and he wouldn't see any further. But because he has sat back and looked over there, behind the curtain, my God, that man who's speaking up there, oh yeah, he's speaking all right. He isn't running the show. It's the guy behind the curtain. Toto pulled back the curtain. The damn dog did it. And even Judy Garland playing her famous role looked over and says, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, Toto. We're not in Kansas anymore. We've entered the Emerald City. We've gone down the yellow brick road. We've bought all of the crap and pap and propaganda that a nation can stand. Going down the road and there's a flash. My God! If I was driving, would have had an accident, gone off the road. What the hell is that? Did we take a shot like in Rhodesia? Somebody's shooting us? Yeah, somebody was shooting us. It's the friggin' government that's shooting us. I said, why? He said, I was going 36. I said, so what? He says, it's a 30-mile zone. I said, what's the penalty? 60 pounds. If you get enough of these things, you can't drive. In moments, what I'd like to do, Matthew, is to do a personal interview with each and every one of you. I didn't expect to come over here and speak, but I did expect for all of you to speak. My voice is limited. Our combined voices with the little things that we say and do, where people can identify with you. See, we're all different. We're all individual personalities. Sure, a lot of people are going to listen to Harry because he's an elder statesman and he's got it together. But not everybody's going to identify with Harry. Maybe the medals will turn him off. Maybe his age will turn him off. Maybe it's guys that look like you. Or Robert. Malcolm, you're on the jury. Your wife. This lady looks like the wife of the late actor with the blue eyes. What was his name? Paul Newman. What's her name? Joanne Woodward. Does she look like Joanne Woodward? She does to me. When she was looking good. The doctor, right? He looks very distinguished. The doctor. This guy with a bit of the half Kojak. Somebody's going to identify with him. And Fern. We all feel pain. We have to make everybody feel the pain. We've got to make everybody feel the pressure. You have to express the pain that you have so that they can do it. They can experience the pain. Just go ahead, open the door. It's the ghost again. I was told at Corfe Castle, there was a ghost in that restaurant and up at the castle. I did a radio show for the first ghost-to-ghost communication, and hoping that in the this inn in Santa Paula that something would happen, that they would come into the Ren 10 room, and I'd hear that, and the door did that, and I was waiting for this guy named Cal to show up, who's seen quite often. It's Halloween, moonlit night, a few storm clouds. He never showed up. But the story of Cal didn't scare anybody. But we literally have a Luciferian New World Order. And I'm going to ask Harry, because I haven't asked him. I'm going to ask you a direct question. Is the Illuminati Luciferian in nature? I mean, is the nature of them Luciferian? Do they believe in the Lord Lucifer?
Absolutely.
I didn't hear. I'm sorry, Harry. I'm getting older.
They worship Lucifer as the sons of the devil. Hence the name Illuminati.
Well, we're talking about the illumined ones. I mean, you're saying that the Illuminati worships Lucifer, then are we seeing legislation that is Luciferian in nature imposed upon the people in this?
Completely.
Completely?
Completely.
Would you tell them?
Since the Illuminati, who were born of the devil, engaged with the Rothschilds of Frankfurt, and the Freemasons were born to carry the message, they have sent us all the message of the devil, intolerant and completely, so that we are being bound hand and foot.
Now, Harry, I was over at a thing with this gentleman behind the camera. We're over in the Hell's Fire Cave. Now, it is rumored that some young virgin women were walked in the cave and they were raped by some of the elite gentlemen who brought them down into those pits. Some of them were killed. And we hear stories of satanic rituals, killings, drinking blood, my God, all sorts of things. Of course, none of that's true, is it?
It's still being carried on, not only in this country, but in your country, for instance, at Harvard University.
How about at Yale University?
Also.
Now, we bought a book over there, and it says something about hell's fire, sex, Satanism, and all of this sort of stuff. And it was published by Yale Press, and it said New Haven, Connecticut, and London. Is there any connection between the Luciferian Illuminati of London and the Skull and Bones, where they lay nude in the coffin and they're born again into the Satanic Order at Yale?
Just as surely there is a direct connection between the family of the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers in America. That same evil spirit has been promoted through the universities as the greatest halls of learning.
You mean to say that there is...
evil permeates the whole edifice.
Now, this is organized evil, is it not?
That's right.
Are they involved in politics ever?
They're involved in politics. They're involved in the daily behavior of human beings.
Now, we have a military here that is sent over to Afghanistan to kill those people, to disrupt their country, to bomb them, to shoot them. And I've noticed one thing. Since the British and American armies were over there, the heroin sales or exports have gone up 1,400%. Are they involved in the distribution of drugs that comes into this country, into the United States, for the purpose of dumbing down the population and making them dependent upon those who furnish it?
Certainly not. Certainly not for the British Army, the British forces. No such practices are carried on. They are the most reliable members of the country who fight for what they regard as their queen and country.
I know that. But as a result of the invasion of Afghanistan by the United States and Britain, the exportation of heroin out of the country, the soldiers don't know this.
No.
I mean, they're simply going over there and doing what they're told. But as a result, this heroin supply has gone up 1,400%. Do you think that Karzai and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and those who control the military might have some say in that?
Oh, they will undoubtedly have influence, but you have to remember that the people of Afghanistan earn a living through their poppies
Yes.
and the making of the heroin. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult. It has been tried to destroy the whole of their crop, but it grows again. And if that's their substance by which they can scratch a living, you're never going to stop it.
I have a friend named Bo Greitz, Lieutenant Colonel James Bo Greitz. He went back into Shanland, which is the Golden Triangle, and he actually talked to General Kun Sa, who was supplying the opium, which went into down the road, this is in Burma, and into Thailand, and then it was shipped over here. And Bo went back and said, "Listen, you seem to be a nice guy. Why are you doing this?" He said, "Well, we have to have this crop so that we can feed our people." So Bo said, "Well, if I could arrange a deal with the White House," that was during the time of Ronald Reagan, just say no to drugs. If I could make the arrangement to get you another crop, and he says, "Well, we want more than just another crop. We want 10% of what we now get, plus you give us another crop. Buy it from us. We'll stop all the growing of all the opium in the nation. We'll stop it." And he went back to the White House. He says, "Great news. Oh, we've got it now. We've got General Kun Sa, the #1 exporter of opium in the world, to say that he's going to have his country stop this. In fact, his military will go off and kill the bastards who grow it. And it would have ended the problem." And Bo is so happy, and God, he's looking up and he's talking to the assistant to the president. He says, "Bo, We have no interest in that here. He says, well, no, you don't understand. We actually have somebody who's head of the whole Shanland territory, the Golden Triangle. We have somebody who says that he'll stop the exportation of heroin. Don't you understand me? He says, Bo, there's no interest in that here. The truth is that the President of the United States was talking out of both sides of his nose. Do you find that sort of duplicity in high places in number 10 Downing Street?
Always, I'm afraid, especially with this present government. You cannot trust anything that comes out because they use spin doctors to permeate their falsehoods.
What do you mean spin doctors? You mean they would twist a story?
People who would twist the truth into any kind of falsehoods laid down by their masters, to make the people believe that what they say is true and is going to bring the truth with it. And in fact, it's just spinning falsehoods.
Now I look at some of those symbols around the Royal Exchange and down Threadneedle Street there, in the city within the city. They look like they're satanic in nature. It looks sort of like the masks that the fellows of the Hell's Fire Club would wear. And there's a movie with Kubrick, Eyes Wide Open. Are they ever involved in anything? I mean, I see the symbols, but it must be just, they look like dragons and gargoyles. I think, maybe they're just doing it. It's a joke. And some woman comes over and talks to me about Magog and the symbols of Magog and Gog. Yes, and Magog is the name given to President George Herbert Walker Bush in the Skull and Bones, when he laid down nude in the coffin, was born again into the Satanic Order. They called him Magog, who is the man who is supposed to wage war against God in the final days of earth. The connection between the Skull and Bones, the Hellfire Club, and this government, are any of these guys, do you think, ever involved in rituals of this nature?
Of course. You must remember also that you had a famous president who uttered words of wisdom, which of course were not followed, warning people about putting their trust in banks.
Surely,
that's in history.
You jest. You mean we can't have the trust in, no trust in the Bank of England?
No trust in any banks.
You mean to say they shortchange us?
Well, that's putting it mildly.
Harry is saying that we can't trust these guys with our money. That's amazing. Malcolm was at this meeting in London. The Parliament was put on trial. I thought, my God, is this serious? Were you people for real out there? I mean, saying, they talked about all the crimes that the government has committed, and you guys came forth with a conclusion. What was that conclusion?
The conclusion was that our government are guilty of various forms of treason, and that a prosecution should take place.
Well, you mean the same government that said that we should have no vote?
Absolutely.
But you had a vote on the Lisbon Treaty, did you not?
Of course not.
Wait, do you want to get close? I don't think I heard. I didn't quite hear you. You said there was no vote on what?
We've had no vote on the Lisbon Treaty.
What did the Lisbon Treaty do? Did it?
It further eroded our sovereignty and made us further involved in slavery.
You mean to say you no longer have sovereignty?
That's been a long process, and it's possibly irreversible now.
Well, that's what the Fabians do. I mean, they give you this this slow road to hell.
Yeah.
It's a Faustian, Fabian financial fraternity. Have you heard that they have satanic rituals ever in places like London, the Hellfire Cave, the Skull and Bones fraternity, the tomb?
On Pewsey.
What?
On Pewsey. Well, on the outskirts of Pewsey.
On the outskirts of Pewsey.
Yeah, on the edge of the Rothschilds estate.
Now, the Rothschilds, I mean, those are the guys that saved the Bank of England. They saved this
For
country.
themselves, yeah.
For themselves.
Mm.
You mean, is the money lawful?
No,
It's not?
no.
You're kidding me. You mean the British pound is not legal?
It's not even real.
What is it?
Well, most of it, about 97% of it, exists as an entry on a computer. Anthony, I must say I'm not a member of the British Constitution Group. I've done my own personal studies.
And your own personal studies would lead you to believe that we're being screwed.
Totally. Very, very seriously.
Malcolm, can we have you on film? Can we use this on film?
Yeah.
Robert, you've gained a reputation of being one of the best researchers, not just in this country, but in the world. Have you discovered that, that what Harry and Malcolm and the doctor is saying is not true? I mean, are they telling the truth, or?
Yeah, I believe they're telling the truth.
You believe they're telling the truth?
I do, yeah.
Well, how about the British pound? I mean, is that legitimate? I mean, did everybody get a fair shake?
Well, it's got a promise to. When you got a £5 note, £10 note, you got a promise to pay the bearer on there, but it doesn't actually mean anything.
Well, if it doesn't mean anything, it would mean it's fraudulent. That means something. It's fraudulent, right?
Well, yeah, they passed a law to say that they could still have the phrase "promise to pay the bearer" on there, but it wouldn't actually have to be carried out.
Well, it's like the U.S. note. It said, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is redeemable in lawful money of the United States of the Federal Reserve." The United States Treasury of the Federal Reserve. I mean, surely you have something like that on your money.
No, we just have. We have a signature of the treasurer, don't we? I believe the treasurer, and promise to pay the bearer. That's what we have.
You mean it's a promise, but it's a broken promise?
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.